Life is full of choices, but some choices are so agonizing, so profoundly difficult, they force us to confront the very core of our moral being. These are the dilemmas that have haunted philosophers, captivated thinkers, and continue to spark passionate debate among everyday people. Head, 5 innocent people are tied to the tracks, unable to move. They will surely die. You are standing next to a lever. This is not just a grim hypothetical. It is a meticulously crafted philosophical tool designed to probe the deepest distinctions in our ethical reasoning. Its origin lies not in some ancient parable, but in the rigorous analytical mind of a 20th century philosopher. The problem truly exploded into philosophical consciousness and gained its enduring grip on our collective imagination when, in 1985, another brilliant philosopher, Judith Jarvis Thomson, picked up the reins. This time, however, you are not next to a lever. Instead, you are standing on a footbridge above the tracks, next to a very large man. So large that if you were to push him off the bridge, his body would fall onto the tracks and stop the trolley, saving the 5 lives. But of course, pushing him would kill him. It asserts that certain actions are inherently right or wrong, regardless of their consequences. In the switch scenario, many people lean utilitarian. The action is indirect. You are redirecting a threat, not directly inflicting harm. Instead, its philosophical goal is to act as a diagnostic tool. It strips away the complexities of real-life situations, leaving only the stark ethical dilemma. By observing our differing responses to its variations, philosophers can gain crucial insights into the underlying principles that guide human moral reasoning. It allows us to examine the nuances of concepts like moral agency, intent, causality, and the distinction between doing and allowing. This seemingly simple thought experiment, born from the rigorous minds of Philippa Foot and Judith Jarvis Thomson, would escape its academic confines to become a global phenomenon, a common touchstone in everything from internet memes to neuroscience labs. Its journey from a philosophical tool to a pop culture icon is as fascinating as the moral questions it continues to pose. Psychology researchers recognized its potential to probe human moral intuition empirically. Rather than just asking philosophers what they thought they would do, psychologists started asking everyday people, observing their responses, and trying to understand the underlying cognitive processes. By collecting data on how large groups of people respond to variations of the problem, experimental philosophers sought to test traditional philosophical theories against actual human moral intuitions. This approach provided new quantitative data to debates that had previously relied solely on logical argumentation and intuition pumps. Experiments emerged that systematically varied the elements of the problem, the number of people on the tracks, the relationships, even their perceived social value, to see how these factors influenced moral decisions. But in the Fat Man scenario, the action becomes direct, personal, physically immediate, activating a different set of moral intuitions, often leaning deontological. For instance, researchers began to explore the difference between impersonal and personal moral dilemmas. The classic switch scenario is often considered impersonal. You are pulling a lever, redirecting a force, without direct physical contact with the victim. The Fat Man scenario, however, is deeply personal. You are directly pushing another human being to their death. Studies, particularly those using advanced neuroimaging techniques like fMRI, reveal that these two types of dilemmas activate different regions of the brain. Impersonal dilemmas often engage areas associated with rational thought and cognitive control. Personal dilemmas, however, tend to light up regions linked to emotion, social cognition, and empathy. This suggested that our moral decisions are not purely rational calculations, but are deeply intertwined with our emotional responses and the perceived intimacy of the harm we might cause. Part of its power lies in its stark simplicity, in its universal relatability. Even if you have never studied ethics, you immediately grasp the core dilemma: a terrible choice between 2 horrific outcomes. This inherent drama makes it endlessly discussable. It is accessible, yet profoundly challenging, forcing anyone who encounters it to confront their own moral compass. Foot and Thomson brought them down to earth, presenting vivid, memorable scenarios that anyone could understand and immediately feel the weight of. This clarity made it a groundbreaking contribution to moral philosophy. launching countless papers, debates, and further variations. It forces us to confront our own internal contradictions. Why does directly pushing feel so much worse than pulling a lever, even if the result is the same? Is it the personal force involved? Is it the violation of a direct prohibition against killing? It emphasizes moral duties, rules, and the inherent rights of individuals. A deontologist might argue that directly pushing the fat man is wrong because it violates a fundamental moral rule against killing an innocent person, or because it uses him as a mere means to an end, stripping him of his inherent dignity. The action itself, not just the outcome, holds moral weight. Its stark, compelling nature was too powerful, too universally relatable to be contained. It would soon break free, spilling into the public consciousness, captivating the minds of psychologists, neuroscientists, and eventually, engineers. And as technology advanced, this grim hypothetical would find itself facing terrifying real-world applications. In her paper, The Trolley Problem, Thomson not only refined Foot's original scenario, but introduced a crucial, an unsettling variation that would fundamentally deepen the dilemma and challenge our moral intuitions even further. If you pull this lever, the trolley will divert onto a different track. However, on that second track, a single person is tied. It argues that the most moral action is the one that produces the greatest good for the greatest number of people. In the context of the trolley problem, strict utilitarian would look at both scenarios to argue that saving 5 lives at the cost of 1 is always the morally correct choice, regardless of the method. The outcome is what matters. You have a choice. Do nothing, and 5 people die, or pull the lever, diverting the trolley, and 1 person dies. Most people feel a profound revulsion at the idea of directly pushing the large man to his death, even if the outcome, saving 5 lives, is numerically identical. This striking difference in our moral responses, despite the same mathematical outcome, is precisely what makes the trolley problem so captivating and so frustrating. What do you do? And perhaps no other thought experiment in history has done more to lay bare the intricacies of human morality than the one we explore today. The trolley problem. Imagine for a moment a runaway trolley barreling down a track. This stark, immediate dilemma is where our story begins. The trolley problem was first formally introduced in 1967 by the brilliant British philosopher Philippa Foot in her seminal paper, The Problem of Abortion and the Doctrine of the Double Effect. Foot was grappling with complex ethical questions, particularly the moral distinction between directly causing harm and merely allowing harm to occur. She wanted to test our intuitions about moral responsibility, especially in situations where actions have both intended good effects and foreseen but unintended bad effects. Her original scenario was simpler than the one commonly known today, involving a runaway tram heading towards 5 people with the option to divert it onto a track where 1 person would die. For Foot, this highlighted a crucial point. Many people would instinctively agree that it is permissible to divert the tram, sacrificing 1 to save 5. This initial intuition suggested a utilitarian leaning, the greatest good for the greatest number. But Foot's work opened a Pandora's box of moral inquiry. Thomson posed the fat man variant. Imagine the same runaway trolley hurtling towards 5 innocent people. Suddenly, the intuitive ease with which many people agreed to pull the lever vanishes. This thought experiment forces us to confront the inherent tension between 2 fundamental ethical frameworks, utilitarianism and deontology. Utilitarianism, broadly speaking, is a consequentialist ethical theory. Deontology, on the other hand, is a duty-based ethical theory. The genius of the trolley problem lies in its ability to isolate and highlight this conflict. The problem is not designed to provide a definitive answer, to tell us what is absolutely right or wrong in such impossible situations. Before the trolley problem, such ethical distinctions were often debated in abstract terms. But the trolley problem was not destined to remain confined to academic journals and university lecture halls. From the quiet halls of philosophy departments, where scholars meticulously dissected abstract ethical dilemmas, the trolley problem was about to leap into the mainstream. What caused this dramatic leap from specialized journals to everyday conversations? As the late 20th century turned into the 21st, the trolley problem began appearing in unexpected places. This led to groundbreaking insights. The trolley problem also became a darling of experimental philosophy, It's a relatively new field that uses empirical research methods to investigate philosophical questions. Beyond academia, the internet proved to be the ultimate accelerator for the trolley problem. Its binary nature and grim humor made it perfect for memes, online quizzes, and viral social media challenges. Suddenly, everyone from teenagers to grandmothers was being asked, "Would you pull the lever?" It became a shorthand for any impossible choice, infiltrating comedy sketches, television shows, and even video games. This widespread exposure cemented its place in pop culture, making it one of the most recognizable ethical thought experiments in history. The perceived level of personal involvement, whether we are actively causing harm or merely redirecting an existing threat, seems to play a significant role. It became a powerful tool for self-reflection, forcing individuals to examine their own moral compass and the principles they unconsciously apply when faced with impossible choices. It was, perhaps unknowingly, preparing us for a future where these abstract dilemmas would transition from mere thought experiments to urgent, real-world programming challenges. The tracks were being laid, not just for a hypothetical trolley, but for autonomous vehicles. Medical AI, the car's sensors detect that if it continues straight, it will hit a group of pedestrians crossing illegally. However, if it swerves, it might hit a single pedestrian on the sidewalk, or perhaps even its own passengers by crashing into a barrier. In a fraction of a second, an algorithm, not a human driver, must make a decision that directly mirrors the trolley problem. This online platform presented users with various trolley-like scenarios involving autonomous vehicles, asking them to decide who should be saved and who should be sacrificed in unavoidable accidents. Many ethicists argue that it is too simplistic for the messy complexities of real-world ethical dilemmas. Real-life accidents rarely present such clear-cut binary choices. It focuses on the moment of impact, rather than the broader ethical considerations in designing, developing, and deploying AI systems. This includes questions of bias in data, algorithmic fairness, transparency, and accountability for AI decisions. The trolley problem might be a useful tool for highlighting a specific kind of ethical tension, but it is not a complete blueprint for AI morality. It reminds us that technology is not value neutral. It embodies the choices we make, the priorities we set, and the moral principles we decide to program into its very core. The tracks are laid, the trolley is running, and the future of ethical decision-making, both human and machine, continues to unfold before us. There are often more than two outcomes: degrees of culpability, unforeseen consequences, and factors like risk assessment and probability that are absent from the stark hypothetical. Some critics also argue that focusing too much on such extreme scenarios distracts from more common, everyday ethical responsibilities that do not involve life or death decisions on a track. Millions of people from virtually every country participated, revealing fascinating insights into cross-cultural moral preferences. The results showed, for instance, that people generally prefer to save humans over pets and more lives over fewer. It helps us articulate our intuitions, debate our values, identify areas where our moral compass might waver or contradict itself. It is a starting point for dialogue. It's forcing engineers to think beyond pure functionality and for ethicists to engage with the practical implications of their theories. But there were also notable cultural differences. Some cultures showed a stronger preference for saving younger lives, while others prioritized saving law-abiding citizens over jaywalkers. How do we ensure that the values we hold dear as humans are accurately translated into the algorithms that govern our future? How do we balance safety, individual rights, and the collective good when a machine is the one holding the lever? These variations highlight the challenge of creating a universal ethical code for AI when human morality itself is not uniform. Who lives? Who dies? And most critically, who decides? And a host of other technologies that would soon force us to embed our moral choices directly into machines. The debate was about to get very real. How do we program machines to make moral decisions? Should an autonomous vehicle be programmed to minimize harm, even if it means sacrificing its own occupants? We are seeing the rise of AI ethics in various fields, from medical diagnostic tools to autonomous weapon systems. If an AI can recommend treatment pathways, how should it weigh the value of different lives or qualities of life? If a military drone operates autonomously, what moral rules should govern its actions in a combat zone? The trolley problem provides a framework, albeit a simplified one, for discussing these incredibly complex ethical trade-offs. It forces us to articulate our values and decide which principles we want to embed into the fabric of our intelligent machines. Or should it prioritize the safety of its passengers, as a human driver might instinctively do? These are not easy questions, and there are no universally agreed upon answers. It revealed that while saving more lives might seem logically appealing, the method by which those lives are saved often triggers deeper, emotional, and rule-based objections. The concept of intent versus foreseen consequence also comes into sharp focus. Are you intending to kill the one person, or are you merely foreseeing their death as an unfortunate side effect of saving the five? This popularization had a double-edged effect. On one hand, it brought complex ethical thinking to a massive audience, encouraging millions to engage with moral philosophy in a way they never would have otherwise. It demystified abstract concepts and showed that philosophy was not just for ivory tower intellectuals, but relevant to everyday decisions, even hypothetical ones. But in the 21st century, this abstract dilemma has taken on a terrifyingly real and urgent dimension. With the rapid advancement of artificial intelligence and the rise of autonomous systems, particularly self-driving cars, the hypothetical scenario of a runaway trolley is no longer just a thought experiment. It is a programming challenge with life and death consequences. On the other hand, the constant simplification and often humorous presentation sometimes strip the problem of its original philosophical depth. The nuances of Foot's and Thomson's arguments could get lost in the pursuit of a quick, shareable dilemma. New variations of the trolley problem emerged, each designed to highlight a particular moral intuition or ethical distinction. Consider the loop variation. The runaway trolley is heading toward 5 people. A healthy young man walks into the hospital for a routine checkup. The surgeon realizes she could take his organs, killing him, but saving the 5. Would that be morally permissible? Most people again recoil in horror. This directly parallels the fat man scenario, reinforcing the intuition against directly sacrificing an innocent person, even for a greater good. It exposes the strong ethical rule against actively harming an individual for the benefit of others, even if the numbers favor it. If you pull the lever, it diverts onto a sidetrack, where it would hit one person. However, that sidetrack then loops back onto the main track, so if the trolley hits the one person, their body will stop it from hitting the 5. If it does not hit the one person, it will loop back and hit the 5. This variation complicates the idea of redirecting a threat versus using someone as a means to an end, as the one person is now undeniably a necessary component in saving the 5. Then there's the surgeon's dilemma. A brilliant surgeon has 5 patients, each needing a different organ to survive. These variations, both academic and popular, revealed that human moral intuition is far from simple or consistent. We often rely on different principles in different contexts. The widespread discussion of the trolley problem, whether in a philosophy classroom or a social media feed, served to highlight these complexities. This era of popularization was not just about intellectual curiosity. From the philosopher's study to internet memes, the trolley problem has fascinated us by forcing uncomfortable moral choices. Imagine a self-driving car. It is navigating a city street when suddenly an unavoidable accident becomes imminent. This is the central ethical quandary that the trolley problem now poses for engineers, ethicists, and policymakers around the globe. The implications extend far beyond self-driving cars. In a groundbreaking attempt to gather global perspectives on these dilemmas, MIT launched the Moral Machine experiment. However, despite its newfound real-world urgency, the trolley problem is not without its limitations and criticisms. Furthermore, framing these challenges solely through the lens of the trolley problem can lead to a reductive view of AI ethics. Despite these criticisms, the trolley problem's enduring relevance cannot be denied. It serves as an incredibly powerful tool for conversation and education. As we move further into an age where machines increasingly participate in complex decision-making, the questions posed by the trolley problem will only grow more urgent. The trolley problem, born from a seemingly abstract philosophical inquiry, has evolved into a real-world crucible for human ethics in the age of artificial intelligence.